Ugh at the bat. Hilda tells someone she calls a beast to get out of her kitchen, but doesn't simply warp him away for some reason. Sabrina tells her that Ambrose will pick up Ugg tonight. Why is he here? I didn't think the plot would be this forced. She tells Sabrina to take Ugg with her, even though the school told them he has to stay off the streets. Sabrina not only dresses him up more realistically, but magically gets rid of his club, which makes me wonder why she didn't do that last time. Why are they using this character again? They better develop on him instead of keeping him a stereotypical caveman. He's not that interesting. Ugg likes seeing baseball, and Sabrina says out loud in front of the students that she hopes no one will discover he's a caveman. Ugg tries to hit a locker, and Weatherby's freaked out at what he saw. Our time is wasted with Reggie playing baseball. And eventually, we see Ugg hit away the ball and impress them. Wouldn't the staff at the school be asking what Ugg is doing there? They'd know he's not a kid or teenager and not recognize him. It should be explained that Sabrina used brainwashing to take care of that problem. He catches baseballs, and Sabrina says in front of people with no consequences that he has to go back to prehistoric times tonight, so she can't let him become a hero to these people. So she casts a spell to make strikes happen. It's immediately obvious that magic is involved in this. It's hard to watch Sabrina cause trouble with her magic. I wish it was Hilda instead. I just feel sorry for Ugg here. Do they really have to have so many minutes dedicated to this? Also, am I supposed to assume nobody can hear Sabrina when she's saying her spells? I guess so. Why is Weatherby the only one saying while freaked out that he didn't see that? No one would be in the mood to cheer, because they'd just be confused by all the stuff happening. Sabrina finally feels sorry for Ugg after he gets booed, and decides to let him bat without interference. But now he's not even trying anymore. She also, thankfully, says that using magic to help Riverdale win wouldn't be fair. So she tells Ugg she believes in him and waves her flag, and then he hits the ball and Riverdale wins. So Weatherby shakes Ugg's hand, and for some reason he says he hasn't seen him around before when he would have recognized them from earlier. The show shouldn't expect me to believe there's no continuity when it's using an earlier episode's character. Weatherby asks for his autograph. The caveman won't even know to write X on the ball. Sabrina says she'll find him a private tutor since he's somehow not eligible to play baseball when he can't even write, when that has nothing to do with baseball. Then we see Ambrose trying to teach him while back in time, and somehow he misspells cat on Ugg, and somehow Sabrina and Hilda have faith in him anyways. This arbitrary episode was about Ugg being in the present day for no reason at all, literally. And somehow, even though it was stated that Ugg has to stay off the streets, Sabrina's allowed to take him to school unshapeshifted when Hilda tells her to. And while she finally wisens up and takes away his club, he still wanders off. But it's enjoyable to see him be great at baseball for a little while. It feels like a natural fit for him because he's used to swinging a club, and a bat is like a club. But I felt sorry for him when Sabrina used magic to make him strike out a lot, because she just couldn't let him be a hero to Riverdale when he has to get sent back in time tonight, because people would miss him. But thankfully, she does change her mind and let him win Riverdale the game. Sure, it was convenient that they let him play in the game when he's not an officially registered student and came out of nowhere. I wish it was explained that Sabrina just brainwashed them to agreeing. And it's also annoying that somehow only Weatherby freaks out at seeing the very obvious magic in the baseball game. The computerized Moose. Moose talks to a giant, unrealistically talking computer on normal 70s Earth. He doesn't know what question he wants to ask it, and unplugs it. Sabrina stands behind it and asks it a difficult question. She thinks she's broken the computer with such a question, so she tries to fix it by casting a spell on it to give it a boost. Why did she even bother asking it that question? But Moose gets the magic boost and becomes a genius. Sabrina thinks she's created a monster even though Moose is still being friendly. He's just saying smart things, but that's it. It makes sense that she'd be scared because there's nothing he can't figure out, since she doesn't want people to figure out she's a witch. And I'm just forced to assume that the reason she doesn't instantly point at him and undo the spell, or at least try to, is that she's hoping that he'll just do nothing but benefit people with his smartness. Moose tells Ethel how to capture Jughead, and we see him tied up. Moose suggests that a janitor get some supplies. Sabrina's happy that Moose is benefiting everyone, except Jughead. Somehow I'm supposed to believe that the magic computer boost is almost impossible to undo from a human and has to just wear off. Gertie asks Moose how she can keep students from talking, throwing spitballs, and cheating on tests, and even though he just knows he's gonna hate himself, he happily helps her out off screen anyways. Weatherby wants to thank him for brilliant money-raising ideas. This is unrealistic. Students wouldn't get their suggestions taken by the teachers and principal, because they're students. The Rick and Morty comic pointed that out. Reggie gets suspicious because Moose is being smart now. Everyone would get suspicious. Moose says that Reggie's asking a question suited for a witch. So Sabrina zaps up earmuffs to make him deaf for a while, and zaps up roller skates to send Moose ahead. She hoped she shorted him out, and Moose bumps into Weatherby, and somehow, Weatherby talks with Moose's voice, and Moose talks with Weatherby's voice, making me wonder if their bodies switched by accident somehow. And Weatherby says he doesn't hear this twice. Sabrina was somehow able to temporarily short Moose out, as she explains to Ambrose. And he bumps into Grundy as well, and she talks like Moose. Reggie walks into a broom closet and screams, and Sabrina gets warped to Ben Franklin, who is Ambrose's expert electronic advisor, even though he's centuries behind. Reggie gets warped back in time and asks for his mother. Why is there such an advanced, huge computer at school? Somehow, Veronica just says it's groovy when Archie tells her that when you bump into Moose, voices switch, instead of freaking out. And we see some military people looking for Moose. Sabrina gets warped to them. He tries to tell them that Sabrina is responsible for all of this. Why is he victimizing Sabrina? That's bullying the dragon. And she's still a nice girl. I guess he really doesn't want her to cause trouble anymore. I guess that's responsible, but clearly a doomed effort. He tries to get Moose to blab on Sabrina about who the town's teen witch is. And Sabrina summons an off switch on Moose, which fortunately turns off his genius intelligence instead of killing him. For the most part, I loved seeing Moose use his intelligence just to help people. I have no idea why there was a talking computer in a normal high school for mortals back in the 70s, though. It should have been explained that Sabrina summoned it. Moose unplugs it, and Sabrina's question is arbitrary, and that's also part of why the whole plot happens. Because Moose gets confused, so she thinks she broke the computer. And somehow, even though she was only thinking about the computer when she cast a spell on it, Moose gets affected and becomes a genius. While the premise is much more forced than the 90s comic, this is such a better plot than when the 90s comic did it. Because here, Moose is nice the entire time, instead of being a jerk who gets the teachers against them. So it doesn't give off the message that being smart is bad. The only conflict comes from the fact that Reggie wants to prove Sabrina's a witch because of this. Why is he the only person who's suspicious of magic when an idiot becomes a genius? You'd think Sabrina would make him forget about when Ambrose sent Sabrina back to Ben Franklin, because he's an electronics expert, even though he's centuries behind. But it's intriguing that he knew about witches and is cool with it. All I knew Moose for in the comics was that he's violent and short-tempered, but I haven't seen Mitch in the show at all. Maybe that's why he's just a nice guy. Unless he's getting mad at Harvey for telling him to throw his money down a wishing well, I only remember him being violent when he thinks Reggie flirted with his girlfriend, and who wants to be mad at Reggie for that? It's weird that there was barely any dwelling on the negative effect on the students when he gave Grundy advice on how to stop students from talking and spitballing, even though he said he'd hate himself for this. You'd think that'd be the focus of the next scene.